Hello, welcome to Quackalope. Thank you for being here. I'm here in a brand new location. I suppose that's normal for the channel at this point. I am oftentimes coming to them from a brand new location. We're at the Gamers Ranch. Could you introduce yourself and give a little bit of a preview of why I have racks upon racks of just over 2,300 something board games behind me?
Absolutely. Welcome. I invite everyone to come down to Gamers Ranch. Yeah, I love board games, and I love sharing board games with people, and we're going to share Sentinels of the Multiverse today. It's my #1 game, and I've had a great time with it, and I've heard you haven't played it.
So we just got finished doing a Gamers Ranch top 10 of all time. Picking through, I mean, you've played getting close to 2,000 different games.
I think so.
And so we narrowed it down, and this was your #1. This is the very top of the list for a variety of reasons, and you're absolutely right. I have no idea what this is. All I know is that I was looking through your shelves, and I had already identified this as something I wanted to open up and explore. It has comics, it has art, it has theme. It comes at me in a giant black box, which is this is going to be the collector's edition?
I don't know if it's collector's. As far as the company goes, I don't think there's anything above and beyond it.
Did this box ship originally, or did you get like
This
packs that ended up fitting inside of here?
No, they came out with Oblivion.
Okay.
So that was kind of the cap on the end of the game.
Okay.
And they came out with this to store everything.
So I had already seen this giant black box of mystery, and as someone that loves Kingdom Death and all things deep and black, I thought to myself, I have to start looking into this, and I just did this simple action. And immediately knew, I started to say noon. Had immediately known. If you can correct my grammar, please comment down below and let me know what that sentence should have been when it was said originally.
I have no idea.
I immediately knew I'd found something that not only looked cool and special, but something that I was probably likely to enjoy. This is going to be kicking at comic books, superheroes, powers, abilities. It's a card game?
It is a card game. It is a great card game, and what I really love about it is this is based on that principle of very few rules, but the cards do all the work. So kind of like the Magic the Gathering.
Sure.
Yeah, it is just amazing, and I think the key is you kind of mentioned it, variety. There's so much variety in this game. There's so many heroes, there's so many villains, and there are just villains that you can't beat unless you have a certain team of heroes. And solving that puzzle is great. You know, you bring some heroes together, the villain smashes you, and you're like, okay, we're going to need Tachyon for this one. We're going to need Bunker for this one. Because everyone has their specialty.
And unlike Marvel Champions, which would be probably my best known superhero game, this is not going to be a deck construction game where you're working to put together the pieces. Here you're taking a pre-built or pre-constructed deck of heroes with their own powers, abilities, and trying instead to set them up against a certain challenge.
Absolutely, and in fact, what's kind of deceptive about this box is that it looks like it's a huge amount, and there's a lot of cards in here, but if you wanted to take this portable, you could show up with this many cards, and you're ready to play.
Absolutely. That's actually really cool.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to start poking my way through here, and what I'm looking for from you is advice, guidance, favorite stories that you've had. Like, I just want this to be sort of a celebration of something that you love so much.
Then don't start there.
What is this?
I think that is artwork. So when you get the collector's box, I guess it is a collector's box, there's going to be artwork of the different heroes.
And you don't think I should start with the comics?
Well, I like to start with the heroes, but I guess these are the heroes. So we have...
Let's see. So if you rotate this 100% so that we are looking at it, then the top camera can see it. Oblivion. Sentinels of the Multiverse.
So this is how it ends, and this is an amazing thing too. Normally, you have a group of heroes going against a villain. Okay, and then, the game wraps up. With Oblivion, you throw multiple heroes at them. And when the heroes, basically, I guess they don't die, but when the when the heroes get defeated, you go grab another hero. And more heroes come into the fight. And you're just trying to throw every hero you have at him.
You realize, with this being your favorite game of all time, in like a year when I come back, I'm just going to ask if you framed these and stuck them up on a wall somewhere yet.
I just don't have any room. I have a giant place and there's no room.
Excuse me.
I don't know. I have no fashion sense. I don't know like how things should be arranged.
I know, but look at these things. Like the artwork is already making me think that there's something cool to explore here.
But they're safe inside this manila envelope.
Well, they're probably also safe behind high quality glass where we can stare at them. I hear what you're saying, though. You can choose to do it, but like this is so cool. This is really neat for me because I just love. I love the art. I love the aesthetic so far. What else do we have here?
I believe
a few more copies of them. It looks like.
Yep.
So it looks like you have 2 full copies of the art prints.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll keep that flipped and safe behind. And if you want to carefully put those back,
absolutely.
What am I getting into here when it comes to the comics? Because this is a comic book game not based on any collection of comics, right?
No, it is based on the idea of a comic book collection that the creators dreamed up.
Okay.
So this is actually the rulebook. So everything in this game has a comic book art style to it.
Yep.
Comic book font. It is just, which is a real big contrast to the fact it comes in this black box. You wouldn't imagine that this color explosion is going to happen as you start getting the things out. And in some ways, I've played so many games of this. These heroes are more real than the heroes, in the Marvel universe and things like that, because I created the stories with the other players, and it's amazing.
What's this comparison that we have here? I like how they're approaching this.
Yeah, so this is going to be the heroes and the relative complexity, and there's so many heroes, and then you're going to have the same thing for the villains. So this is, how hard they are to operate. Doesn't have anything to do with how effective they are. Okay. Just, how much...
now, are you playing as the villains or playing as the heroes?
You're playing as the heroes.
Okay. Going up against a AI system.
Against a villain and an environment. So that's kind of a third piece of it is the environment. Because you can fight Grand Warlord Voss on the back of a giant sea turtle, or you can fight him in a Wagner's Mars base. And each environment is going to bring its own flavor.
So they do have some comics that have been produced here. Now, I do have to say, I know you haven't watched a ton of the content on our channels. I'm kind of just grabbing them and throwing them in front of the camera here. We do have a rule about reading all flavor text, period.
I like reading flavor text on the cards, but I am not a big comic book fan.
Okay.
As far as reading the comic books, it just does not jive with my mind. The comics, they jump around so much, and I'm more of a novel person.
Yeah,
I guess.
That makes sense.
But I love the artwork. I love the stories.
Here we are. I found the introduction. Do you mind if I give it a swing?
No, go ahead.
The heroes of the Earth and beyond have fought against the effects of an unknown comic power for a long time, and each time they managed to prevail. However, other realities and timelines have not been so fortunate. The goal of comic entities' encroachment upon the multiverse has been the collapse of all realities and timelines into a singularity, which will self-implode, leaving naught but oblivion, the true heir to nothingness. Oblivion himself has manifested on Earth in this timeline to put an end to the pitiful resistance. If he succeeds, everything will be destroyed. However, if the heroes can manage to stop Oblivion, the cracks which run through all realities will be erased as the comic power responsible for them is destroyed, cutting all timelines and realities off from each other. One way or another, the multiverse ends here.
We should just shut this off now and start playing.
I like it.
So this was the rules for Oblivion.
Yep.
And so that is the end. The possible end.
Yeah.
It depends how you do.
One of the variations. All right.
Yep.
Let's start pulling things. And I'm going to let you start opening up the box.
We need to start with the heroes because, they're the kind of the cornerstone of everything. There's multiple... there's
so these are
so
all
many
heroes that we're pulling out here?
Absolutely.
Okay.
And the heroes with the cardboard, these are heroes that actually came out by Greater Than Games.
Okay.
And then these guys over here, these are heroes that were created by a third party called the Cauldron, and they picked up the mantle and they just started creating things, and they were able to work with Greater Than Games to be officially supported. So these are print and play, but they are on par with the other heroes. It is amazing.
What heroes do you gravitate to when you play this?
Absolutely. So we're going to Tachyon, number 1. So Tachyon's a speedster. And so another thing that's very interesting about this game is that you have the deck, but you have these identities. Okay. And so there's a bunch of different identities that come with them. And the identity as you play with the deck of cards is going to vary how how your hero plays.
And these are the different personalities you could play as.
Absolutely.
Okay.
And so my number one is Tachyon Team Leader.
Oh, and they're based off of like a version of them in different comic
Yeah,
books.
absolutely. In different dimensions. There's I think a 1870 one where they all go back in time.
Okay.
And yeah, it's fantastic. So I love Tachyon Team Leader because it allows other players to draw cards.
Okay.
And in a lot of games, drawing cards is great. And as a team lead, people's hands should be full of cards.
So once you select that, does it start scripting how this deck is, or do you play with the full built deck here?
You play with the full built deck.
Okay.
But what's going to happen is your strategy is going to change a little bit. And with Team Leader, or with Tachyon in general, Tachyon has cards. So let's look at one of the cards. So the key with this game is the card text. So one shots are ones that you just play, and they instantly go off and they go into your discard pile. So she has a special subtype called Burst, and what happens is you want to get those burst cards into your discard pile, and then she has some cards right here. Lightspeed Barrage. So Tachyon deals one target, X melee damage, where X is the number of burst cards in her trash. And so you want to build those up, get 20 burst cards. There's, I think, 3 or 4 copies of this, and just take things down.
Okay.
And she has lots of gear and equipment. So there's equipment. You may play an additional card during your play phase, so that's going to get more burst cards in her trash. There's cards pushing the limits where she's taking damage, but it shows, she's circling the world a million times and just pushing it. And this is the kind of game where the villains come out strong. And, let's say that, you might start off with
Here's
26
that one
health.
circling the world.
Yeah, and you can go down to, 6, 7 health. But you're building up because you're getting equipment out, you're getting ongoing cards out, and so you're just gaining in power. But it is always really tight at the end.
Okay.
So.
And you said down here on the bottom, there's always a little bit of flavor text, as if it was from comic books that existed, right?
What is that one?
So let's see here. She can run at legendary speeds, but it's not easy. Unity and science and progress, one shot.
Yeah, so that was a one-shot comic that, to my knowledge, doesn't exist.
Yeah. Here we have 10 seconds ago, I was in a different time zone. Guess how many times I'm going to hit you in the next 10 seconds. Tachyon, Lightspeed, comic number 8.
Exactly. It's just fantastic. And it's those layers that just add extra to the game. You know, because you can play a game. I like a lot of, kind of themeless mechanical games.
Okay.
But when you can have a good mechanic and then layer a great theme on it, it's fantastic.
Like you said, some of these comics feel as real, if not more real to you, because you've enjoyed and played their stories as some of the bigger kind of IP ones.
Absolutely.
What else do we have here?
Oh, and
who else do we want to show
plays
off?
so differently. Let's see. You've got.
I'm really interested. I'm just going to grab one of these.
This is the key, right? So when someone comes to the game and they're brand new, pick somebody that looks interesting to you. Right?
Because I'm fascinated by these fan created that ended up getting like full official support. So here we have
Magnificent Mara. I don't know this hero very well.
Magnificent Mara. And I like the artwork's different between characters as well. These being fan created, did the fans do all the
absolutely
original artwork and everything? This is awesome.
Yep. The other thing that's really neat about this game is that the villains all have they're kind of sworn enemies.
Okay.
And so they'll do damage. Like if Grand Warlord Voss really doesn't like Tachyon, then he does extra damage to her, but she does extra damage to him.
Okay.
And so they have little rivalries.
So you have your own framing to kind of the narratives, like the underlying as well. Lady of the Wood. Love the stained glass artwork here.
And because the cards have because it's mainly driven off of card text, there's a lot of heroes that put cards into play that other heroes can't put into play. Different keywords that do different abilities that you might have keywords that are only for one particular hero. And
Look
make
at these
it function.
full art. How awesome are some of those scenes?
Yeah.
Oh, this is awesome. So the forest burning down, and she's sitting there wrapping herself around one of the deer. It looks like.
And do you still have one of the hero cards? Because another thing that's interesting about this game is that one of the hero identities.
Hero identities. Are these the hero identities?
These are the identities.
Okay.
Yep. And so when your hero gets kind of knocked out, you actually flip it over, and they still take turns but you get to do an ability on your turn instead of playing cards. And so there's no player elimination. You're always kind of in the fight. You're just helping your team from a little more incapacitated state.
So, who's one of the characters here that you have one of those? Like, what's a story that you remember? Like a game that you played that you walked away being like, that's why this is a game.
Oh, I tell you, I would say Tango 1. Tango 1 has a great mechanic where she's lining up her shots.
Okay.
And so she's on high ground. She's
That
playing
night
cards
suit's
that basically increase damage over time. And
Okay.
well, her versus almost anyone is a great story because she has something where if she has a certain number of cards, I think in her discard, in cards in her hand, if that if the thing that she's attacking has less health, then it just instantly destroys it.
Okay.
And it's
So you get some like epic moments with
yeah,
that.
absolutely. I'm trying to think. We have to pop the villains open.
Let's do that.
So many villains.
Let's do that. So let me slot this back in.
Yep.
And then
It'll kind of jog my memory here because there's so many.
this one
amazing.
finagled its way out. There
Yep.
a little bit. So those are the heroes. How many heroes
right.
do you think are in there? 50 plus?
I think so. Yeah.
This drawer here?
And they just all play so differently. Yep.
All right.
Yeah.
We
so
have a
and then
pile
we
of
have
villains.
some more villains up top.
Up top. And
As
then what's
well.
this drawer over here?
That is going to be for tokens
Components,
and
chips, items.
So with the villains, with the heroes, the villains come with smaller cards as well. However, if you look in here, they come with big versions of them.
Big versions. What are all of these? These all the villains?
These are going to be all the villains. So the villain has a main card and then it has its deck.
Holy cow. So I'm going to let you chat, and I'm just
Sure.
going to start going through the artwork on all
Yeah,
of these because
absolutely.
this is awesome.
So just the amount of...
What's the difference on the...
So they're going to flip under different conditions.
Okay.
So there's going to be things that during the villain turn, like for example, he goes... So he has one side that's Plague Bear and then Filthy Vermin.
This is awesome.
Yeah, those were... I think those came with this box as well. But you have just all kinds of... somebody like Ambusque, he's a bounty hunter.
Okay.
So he's a bounty hunter that's hunting superheroes. And he's putting all these traps. And so he's putting traps in his deck so that as certain cards get shuffled in there, they get shuffled in face up.
Okay.
Then his traps go off. And has all kinds of ways to disable your equipment. And he's kind of always knowing what you're going to do before you do it.
I mean, that is some confidence. Oblivion booklet.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Because there's different kind of stages to Oblivion. You have to fight his henchmen and then finally get to him. Let's see. What are some other ones? Yeah. And then there's interesting villains, like let's say for example that you have heroes that do a lot of damage to a lot of different creatures. Because what happens is that the villain might have a bunch of henchmen. So having cards that say deal 1 damage or 2 damage to every villain target is great. But then you have people like the Dreamer. Okay. And so the Dreamer is a psychic girl that you don't want to actually harm. You have to take care of her projections, but she has very little health. And if you actually take her out, then she wakes up and basically unravels the fabric of time.
Okay.
And so it's one of these things where every villain has a way to approach
their
the villain.
own twist, the way that you're fighting
absolutely.
and playing with them.
There's ones where you have to fight groups of villains.
And there are so many villains here too. How long does a match last? Like, are you sitting down to play one villain, or are you going to play
You're going to
3
play
sessions at a time?
Usually one, and I would say it's probably 90 minutes.
Okay.
60 to 90 minutes, depending on how. Because the game setup is really fast. Because you're going to pull the cards out for your heroes, you're going to pull the cards out for the villains, pull out an environment, and then you can start. Shuffle it up, and you're good to go. Let's see. Yeah, I mean, there's the Dreamer.
Now, do the villains have their own... You said there's different moments where their big card will flip.
Yes.
This is the Dreamer that you're talking about.
So the Dreamer has 6 health.
Okay.
And so, most of them have, 180, something like that. But you don't want to do damage to the Dreamer. Well, that kind of cuts a lot of heroes off where their main mechanic is doing damage to a lot of things.
Okay.
And so the other thing that's great about this game is that you have to play a lot of different heroes to understand the different heroes' strengths and weaknesses so that you can assemble a team to fight the villain.
How many people are you? Can you go head to head, one hero versus one villain, and have it be balanced? Or you normally need a team of people to go?
I think it's a minimum of 3.
Minimum of 3.
Believe.
And do you play this? Do you play this solo? Do you run?
I don't play very many games solo.
Okay, just not your genre.
No. I'm just not a big solo gamer.
What about 2-player? With one person running 2, or do you normally try to have 3 people around the table?
Yeah, I mean, I think that if I've played it 2-player before, but we cooperatively ran a 3rd.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
They have a really good scaling mechanic in it. On a lot of cards, it'll say H. And so let's say that the villain does H plus 1 damage, where H is the number of heroes.
Okay.
And so the more heroes you get, the harder they are. Yeah, so this guy has an interesting mechanic. He's kidnapping people, putting them in this safe house, and I think eventually he takes a bunch of drugs and becomes this
sure, as you do with your spite, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Let's see here. He's much worse. I don't know what happened, but I know it's bad. The Wraith, Abomination of Desolation, number 2.
There you go. You have people like the chairman, who is actually relatively weak, but he has some really powerful henchmen that you have to get through.
PL626 compound, is that 11?
I think so. Kids at home don't use that compound.
Noted significant subject reactions to compound PL626. Lab report, prelude of the boulders.
Yeah, it's not good for you.
This is cool.
See. And there's more villains up here.
I sort of want, with all of the stuff that's going on here, I sort of just want to pull out heroes, like a few heroes and a few villains, and just grab and go, and like you said, sit down and start hammering away and seeing.
And just play one. You have somebody like Gray, who is a human reactor.
Okay.
And so he can explode and basically kill everyone, and you're trying to do some damage to him, but also keep him from exploding because he's radioactive, and so there's just a lot of management of the villain. And it has all the things that a great card game should have. There's damage effects, but there's also deck manipulation.
Okay.
And there's a lot of heroes that are very defensive and that bolster the other hero's defense. And so everyone can have a role in defeating the villain.
If I were going to stabilize your condition, these are the compounds they'll need to procure. I saw one that was really messing with me is bad for your health. Gray, Freedom 5, comic number 410.
And so as we move, so you're ready for the environment?
Let's see. So let me slot these 2 back in where they go. So Gray went up here.
Yep.
And then we have Spite.
Yep, and what's also nice is that they all have different card backs.
I was noticing that with the wanted card back, and it makes it a lot easier to unsort, resort, put back together.
Exactly.
Spite fits in right here. And so talk to me about how the environments work. You said that's the next mechanic of the game, right?
Yep.
It's going to be the fact that you're not only fighting characters, you're not only taking heroes versus villains, each with their own custom sort of balance and mitigation that you're playing with, but you then draft a environment for each one to play in as well?
So there's going to be one villain, the heroes, and one environment. And the basic structure of the game is that the villain is going to go.
Okay.
Then the players are all going to go in order, and then the top card of the environment card is played.
So are the environments custom to each scenario? Like, is it a unique set of environments? Or
there is no scenario. So it's basically pick some heroes, pick a villain, pick an environment. Now there are some villains that kind of go like the plague rat, right? So he's radioactive, and there's an environment there that is basically a chemical lab.
It makes sense,
right? Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So there's some that are kind of paired up.
Are these here or no?
Yep, those are the environments.
So let's see the environments we have: Insula Primus, Freedom Tower, Omnitron 9, Celestial Tribunal, Mission or Mobile Defense Platform, Fantastical Festival. Some of these fonts are hard for me to read on camera. Magamara, The Court of Blood, Silver Gulch, Crook City, Realm of Discord, Wagner Mars Base. So what's some of your favorite environments?
I'd say the Wagner Mars Base. I mean, this is kind of the Fantastic Four, where they're where they get their powers. They're up on this up in this base, and one card in particular in there is that air leak. Is that the one?
Oxygen leak?
Yeah, oxygen leak. And so this is pretty amazing. It says reduce all fire damage by 1 at the end of the environment turn. One player may discard 1 card to destroy this, but at the start of the environment turn, hold on. Nope, this is not the one. There is one where basically it shuts down all damage.
Okay.
So the heroes can't damage the villain can't damage the heroes. And so the idea is the villain going to get more powerful before you guys can build up, and then when you finally destroy the card,
it's like
a freeze.
It's the shields went down in Star Wars, and you're waiting, just like swiping
exactly,
across
and
them.
you're trying to build up your table, your tableau faster than the villain is, but it almost never works. It always sounds like a great idea, but yeah. So you're fighting in space, or if you do something like the Realm of Discord. I mean, this is straight out of almost. Like Doctor Strange in the Multiverse. It's just strange and bizarre.
Okay.
There's one I think called the Vault, where you're actually a prisoner and you're in this maximum security prison for super villains and superheroes.
I love circuses, so I went ahead and grabbed the.
I've never actually played that
carnival.
one. Let's see.
What? You're saying you haven't played every single piece of content
not.
in this game? I don't know how that's possible.
That's what makes it interesting.
Last I saw him, he was checking out the Hypnodome. The Marion explained. When I got back there was no sign of him. Just pipes. I'm most concerned.
Yeah, and so the Freedom Tower, there's going to be all kinds of things that subway cars disrailing, and it's going to do a bunch of damage unless you go and save it, but it's kind of distracting you.
This is fun flavor text. They weren't just ordinary reflections. They wore different clothes and even moved differently than she did. Worst of all, upon seeing her, they all screamed.
Yeah, it's good stuff. Let's see.
So how do the environments work? Are they affecting? You already described a scenario where it sort of is freezing or pausing for players. Are they also affecting both the heroes and the villains positively and negatively? Do they feel
absolutely.
a bit too random, or can you start to learn and control for the place you're playing in?
Where you would say random, I would say variability.
Okay.
Right? Because they make the texture a little bit different, because the villain is going to play kind of how the villain plays, and the hero is going to play. Exactly. But it's really the environment is that wild card that's going to make it play a little bit differently when you throw a different environment in. And it could boost damage. It could go with you.
Okay.
It could go against you. But the idea is that it's giving you something else that you kind of have to worry about. Something else you have to manage, because I guess it's not enough you're fighting a villain. Mm-hmm. You've also got to manage your environment as well. Mm-hmm. And it just does it in an interesting way. Sometimes it'll come out with something. One of the core principles, or one of the core mechanics, is that a lot of times it'll say deals damage to the hero with the highest HP.
Okay.
Or it might say the highest target HP. So, a giant T-Rex might be coming along and actually chomping on the villain, as long as the villain has the highest HP. But then when
going after him.
Yeah, and so you want to keep that alive.
Yep.
Until he drops, and now all of a sudden it's a problem because it's coming after you.
Yep.
So, yeah, some of the environments are more punishing than others, and some just make it really weird.
So you have me convinced to try this. I am incredibly compelled, not just because of this, which is impressive and wonderful. How would you recommend for people that want to try this out, get started in the game? Is it still in circulation? Are you looking at used copies at this point? What's the way people should approach this game?
As far as I know, it's still all in print.
Okay.
And in fact, there was a Kickstarter not very long ago for a second edition where they were going to clean up some of the card text, rework a little bit of the mechanics, make things a little more clear. Because I would say one thing about this game is that there's a high cognitive load.
Okay.
Because it's all dealing with cards, and every card has the ability to affect how much damage is dealt or how much protection someone has. There's a lot of little things to keep track of. And they include tokens to try to help say, all damage is increased by 1. But I think, and there's a lot of phases. So there's, before the villain turn, there's during the villain turn, there's his draw phase. And so certain cards will activate on that. And I think in the second edition, they're color coding a lot of it. They're making it easier so that if you have a villain and he has 15 cards out, which is absolutely possible, of henchmen and all kinds of things, you can work through the different steps, and it's a little more obvious.
And where would you recommend someone starts? Are you able to get kind of small packs?
I would start with the They do sell some packs, but I would start with just the base box. The Sentinels of the Multiverse.
Just the original.
The card game, yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
And then they have a number of different kind of big box sets that'll include, 5 or 6 different heroes or 5 or 6 different villains.
Cool. And thank you so much for showing me this.
Yeah.
What were you going to say?
Oh, I was going to say, the other great thing about this game is that because the box sets come with heroes and villains, a group of people can buy different box sets.
And bring something to the table.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Very cool. Well, thank you for showing me. I'm excited I was able to dive into it. I've never played, but I think we're going to try to rectify that.
I can't wait to show it to you, for real.
Yeah. So, thank you for watching. Thank you for being here. Hopefully you enjoyed this. If you're already a fan of Sentinels of the Multiverse, like you said, hopefully you enjoyed just, sitting down and listening to a friend rediscovering and another friend exploring and sharing a game that you already love. If this is the first time you're learning about this, like it is me, are you compelled or are you going to pick it up? Let me know what you think down in the comments down below. Whatever the case, whatever you do, remember to do the important thing. Get out and play some games. We'll see you next time.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.